Hey, this is Ryan Chamberlain, and this week on Strategic Networker Weekly, I want to talk about blind spots. Let's jump right into it because I want to discuss two blind spots that most people have. First of all, what's a blind spot? Well, you know when you're driving down the highway and you look over into your left or your right side mirror and you go to turn into the next lane and all of a sudden you realize there's a car there, but wait, you just looked and you couldn't see anything. Well, that's a blind spot. A blind spot is when something's so close to you and it's in the perfect spot that you just simply can't see it. Well, we have these things in our networking businesses and we have these things in our life that we want to uncover. So uncovering blind spots is very, very important. These are simply things that we can't see, but just because we can't see them doesn't mean they're not there. So let's talk about a couple blind spots that absolutely happen inside of your network marketing businesses. First of all, when we seem to be having the same leadership problem or issue over and over and over again, maybe we're building teams and then they fall apart. We're building teams and they fall apart. We're building teams and they fall apart. And we just simply can't figure out why. My guess is there's a blind spot in your leadership that either the people you're hanging out with are not helping you uncover it, or you're not asking the right questions, or even thinking about things the right way to uncover them. So as we think about this, we have to realize that in the world of leadership, when we're talking about building a network marketing business, our leadership is not measured in networking by what happens when we're present as much as it's measured as to what happens when we're not present. So we have to remember this, a real leader, a real strategic networking leader, equips, empowers, and encourages their team to do the work. So we begin there. We begin looking at our leadership style. If we're building teams that are falling apart, we got to get a little bit strategic about this. Are we equipping our leaders enough? Are we encouraging our leaders enough? Or are we trying to do all the work and not allowing up-and-coming leaders to develop and cultivate? Because, hey, if you've sponsored enough people, which leads me to our next blind spot here, and it just keeps falling apart, or your team's growing to a certain point and then people seem to get frustrated and you're dealing with issues over and over again, we've got to evaluate whether or not we're equipping, empowering, or encouraging our team to take on these roles themselves. And so it really boils down to a leadership blind spot, and it's time, ladies and gentlemen, for us to analyze this and start asking the right questions if we've built teams over and over and over and they don't seem to be sticking. So there's blind spot number one we want to analyze this week. We want to take some notes on it and we want to begin to ask the right question. Now, blind spot number two is this. If we've sponsored 20 or more people, now you're a strategic networker, you're someone that knows how to sponsor people, you know how to build some teams. If they've fallen apart or whatever, let's go to this blind spot number two, because there's many of you watching this video that have already sponsored 10 or 20 or more people, but you have no real duplication. So your team is there, people are showing up, you're not a bad leader from the standpoint of your team keeps falling apart, you just can't get it to grow, and you have sponsored people and you've proven everyone around you that you've sponsored people. So here's some lessons that I've learned on this. Number one, we've got to stand back and analyze some blind spots here and ask ourselves this question. Did I really sponsor people or did I just sell them into the organization? Because if you're a good enough salesman or sales lady, you can sell people to be on your team and you may have enough people skills to keep them on your team, but you're not going to get real duplication because you never sponsored them. The difference between sponsoring and sponsoring is when you connect someone to their dreams and goals with your opportunity or with the networking model and they visualize themselves becoming free. They take ownership of what it is that they want in life and attach it to that opportunity. That's when you've truly sponsored someone. Maybe it takes getting them to a big event before they're officially sponsored. But you've got to ask yourself, am I sponsoring people into my network or am I actually just selling them on the product or service and they like being a part of it, but they're never going to duplicate because they haven't really been sponsored? Here's another question I found through the years. Am I launching people correctly? Am I helping them get started, or do I have blind spots in this? Because if I've sponsored 20 and my team's not falling apart, but nobody's duplicating, am I really engaging in the right launching activities or getting people started correctly? Am I really doing that properly? So we've got to uncover blind spots there if we're ever going to get duplication. And then here's a big one. When I'm bringing people onto my team, am I expecting something out of them that I shouldn't? Therefore, spending more time with people that I shouldn't be spending time with. See, that's a formula for disaster in networking, spending our time with the wrong people. Expecting people to really build a big business when they've never really given us a reason to expect that. Now, we should be able to expect the best out of everyone, but if we're going to get strategic, we got to ask the right questions. We got to dig in. Are they getting launched? Are we sponsoring them? Are we launching them? And then are we expecting more out of them than what they're really saying they're committed to? Because we want them to be top earners so that, hey, we can get wealthy. Is that the attitude that we're portraying? Are we obtaining a blind spot because we're just hoping we can get rich off everybody in our organization? Or really seeing their commitments for what they are so that we're only spending our time with people that deserve our time? You know, the last thing I'll say about this topic here is, am I continuing to lead by example? Do we have blind spots in our business here that really it comes down to we're just simply not doing anymore? We might have done it at one time, but we're not doing anymore what we're trying to get other people to do. You know, until your business is thriving, until it's really duplicating, and I beg to, I mean, you may never move out from this as a mega leader in the industry, but there's got to be a certain amount of leading by example that people are able to follow, because people are following what they're seeing, not what they're hearing. Ladies and gentlemen, these are blind spots. It's time to write some things down based on this week's teaching and training, and let's continue to become strategic networkers together.